I've hit all the buttons this time. I get to be the host today. Welcome to Quarkus Insights 129, where our guest is Max Anderson and Ioannis Kanellos, and they're going to be talking about JBang and what we've done with JBang and the Quarkus CLI. It's sort of a marriage made in heaven. But before that, shall we talk about news? Do we have any news, Max?
Yeah, a little bit. We got we done Quarkus 3 a while ago. Well, a while ago, it's like 2 weeks ago, but it feels like
Old news.
The big thing is that we've done 3 updates. Quarkus 3.03 and 3.1 is being built this week, I think, or is it next week? And I have a cough, but the very important thing is, that we got new updates for the t-shirts. So I don't have one. No one's wearing it today. But for every release we do, a major release, we send out a t-shirt to everyone who's contributed to that release, and and we always get it out late. So this time we went and did a scan of contributors early, which left out about 120 people who haven't who somehow were after the date we did, which I think like 2 months ago. But anyway, those has now been collected again, and so if your email is registered as public on GitHub and you think you should have a t-shirt, you should by now have received an email, or in the next coming days when it rolls out, asking for, hey, do you want to get a t-shirt? If yes, then fill out this form, and then a t-shirt will magically appear at some point. So that means that I think 500 or something already got it, but there's like a 120 or something that need to get one more for their last minute contribution to Quarkus. So yeah, that's that was the news I had today.
Cool. And so I guess we should start with introductions. So Max, who are you? Why are you here?
Oh, I don't know. I myself. Max, I worked co-leading Quarkus, but also made this thing called JBang a few years back because I had to remind myself how to go do Java again. So I created a thing called JBang, which is an all kind. Well, I call it like the little tool that is missing in the JDK that you try and use. Python or Node.js and others, or Go even, you can kind of just run and develop stuff without having to do things. Install applications, that kind of thing, without having to set something up. So JBang does that for Java, basically. You can build and compile and run projects, and I'm sure that Ioannis is going to show how that is helping in Quarkus. So that's me in this scenario.
Cool. And how about you, Ioannis?
Well, my name is Ioannis. I work for Red Hat for like 11 years now or something like that. I spent a lot of time on Quarkus, mostly doing things around Quarkus and Kubernetes. I have, let's say, a history of doing Java-related things with Kubernetes. And lately, I'm spreading to other Quarkus-related areas, as you will find out today, like CLI and those kind of things.
Cool. So shall we jump right in? I think, have you got slides and a demo?
Yep.
Cool.
Is my let's share my screen, okay?
Yep.
So that I can start.
Cool.
Okay. Quarkus 3 is out, and one of the things that I'm most excited about is the ability of using JBang in order to extend the Quarkus CLI. This is also the topic for today, and I have created, as you mentioned, a demo that I hope you enjoy. And also have a few slides that are actually going to be somehow part of the demo itself. So let me elaborate. A couple of weeks ago, during DevOps, I had a very interesting discussion about ways of blending presentation with demonstration together. And An example that was mentioned was a presentation, I think, given by Clement a couple of years ago on Intro to Reactive, where he used a framework called reveal.js, which is an HTML/JavaScript framework for doing presentations. And he did something really great there, where he was streaming responses from the demo application directly into the HTML slides, creating a very interesting experience. Well, today I wanted to try something similar with this presentation. However, I don't have web apps and streaming and those kind of things. Instead, I have Quarkus CLI and JBang. So I wanted to create a JBang plugin that will take the Markdown slide deck that I have created and we were seeing in the background, and serve that in the form of a Quarkus themed Reveal.js presentation. So I created a JBang script called present.java that accepts as an argument the Quarkus CLI JBang, which is a markdown file containing my slide deck, and serves that at localhost port 8080. No, sorry, it was not port 8080, it was port 8000. And once I switch to port 8000, I should be able to see the Reveal.js powered presentation. So the topic for today is Quarkus CLI and JBang, and I would like to start with a few words on the evolution of the Quarkus CLI. So starting from 2019, the first public release of Quarkus version 0.11.0, the CLI was already there. It is something that you hardly realize that the CLI was there from the get-go. And back then, it only provided 3 commands, one command to add extensions, one command to list, one command to create a new project. And fast forward to today, we have version 3.0.3, which includes almost 32 commands spread in 6 sub-CLIs for creating apps, for building container images, deploying, doing things with the registry, and of course, manipulating plugins, as we will see later on. It is evident, of course, that at this pace, we will soon end up having a very, very large CLI, which is not ideal. So we needed to have a way of having optional subcommands that would be dynamically pluggable. And this led to an effort that preceded the Quarkus 3 release, which was all about this, how we can add optional subcommands into the CLI. So what we created is the CLI plugin mechanism, which is able to add subcommands from a lot of different, let's say, sources. For example, executable files found in the path prefixed by Quarkus dash, source files, jars, maven coordinates, or even other sources, like, for example, extensions. Extensions are able now to contribute CLI plugins to the Quarkus CLI. The last 3, Java source files, jars, and maven coordinates, are backed by JBang, are enabled by JBang. So at this point, it makes sense to say a few things. Let's say, to say my side of the story with JBang. So
I only just before you do that, I just want to highlight that Quarkus CLI does not you can extend the Quarkus CLI without JBang. Like you can have you can have a native command and it will call Quarkus dash something and it will work like you used to in other IDs, right?
Yeah, this is pretty much what I meant by executables found in the path.
Yeah, and I know just to highlight that it's not just so JBang is not a forced upon you or like spoon fed or like this is a requirement. It's just that hey, besides executables, we have this nice language called Java you can do stuff with, and that's literally what JBang does is make that easy. But I'll give it back to you, Ioannis.
Okay, so Java is very cool. It's a great language for building enterprise applications and those kind of things. However, when it comes to smaller script-like programs, Java is far from ideal. And more specifically, the fact that you have to compile the file and then use a different command to run it, or deal with a project structure, package hierarchy, and those kind of things. The fact that it is really hard to add dependencies if you are going to use the Java command line to run your app. All in all, it gets a little bit verbose and far from ideal when it comes to running script-like programs. And this leads us to one of my recent findings inside a Dumax Emacs configuration file, where Java is referred to as the poster child of carpal tunnel syndrome, which is I think that it is funny because it highlights how people perceive Java when they are coming from outside the Java ecosystem and the Java world. So a couple of weeks, no, it was not weeks, it was months ago, I had my daughter ask me, hey, Dad, I want to share with you how we do block programming at school. And I want you to show me how you do programming at work. And well, I couldn't show her the traditional Java approach because this would, require me to show her things like working with Maven and dealing with dependencies with external tools and dealing with directory structures. So instead, I showed her JBang, which provides a much simpler user experience. Now, what exactly and how does a JBang program look like? It's a typical Java program. However, it contains some meta, let's say, comments that may provide information like dependencies used from that program, by that program, configuration options, and more. In this example, we see a hello world with a twist, which is pretty much a program that reads an argument from the command line, creates a hello world in ASCII art. When I jump to the demo part, I will show you exactly what the output looks like. But one of the great things about JBang is that it's not just a way of, let's say, writing Java programs the easy way. It also provides a very large ecosystem with utilities and such that bring the whole Java experience to a total new level. So, for example, it's not just a tool that allows you to run Java programs available locally. It also allows you to run remote files by providing a URL to the file through Git repositories, Maven artifacts, gists, and all those kind of things. It allows you to create aliases for Java sources that are available through all those means. And it also allows you to create, let's say, bundles of aliases, which are named catalogs, that help people group and distribute their JBang scripts. And this is very important for the Quarkus CLI because through this approach, it becomes so much easier to discover CLI plugins.
Yeah, that seems like a really natural fit.
Yeah, exactly. I'm pretty much done with the slides, and the demo will follow. The purpose of this demonstration is to show you how the CLI plugin mechanism works and how plays nicely with JBang, but also to inspire you with ideas of that would possibly help you write your own plugins that will help you and your team make the most out of this feature. And back to my terminal. Let's kill the presentation and let me switch and align my cheat sheet. Okay. During the presentation and during the slide deck, we came across the first, let's say, the Hello World example for JBang, which is also available. I also have it locally. It's this file, and I can run it using something like JBang, the name of the file, and the argument that will display the hello. And we see that in a single step, JBang does the compilation behind the scene. It downloads the needed dependency for producing the ASCII art from Maven Central, and finally executing and providing us with the output. And I could also skip the hello part, the JBang part, and do /hello there or hello insights. And you see that in consecutive runs, no compilation or no downloading takes place. And the execution of my script is pretty much instantaneous. I can jump to my script, perform code changes. For example, we can change the message from hello to howdy. Since I performed a code change, we had a very quick compilation, and we see the updated message here. So
sorry. So for that to work, is the only prereq that you have had JBang installed on your system, and then you can execute any Java file just as an executable?
Well, the only prerequisite is having Java available and JBang itself.
Yeah.
Well, and if you don't have Java, JBang will get it for you.
Okay. So the only prerequisite is having JBang, I guess.
All roads lead to JBang in this case.
Okay, so how do we take this pretty cool JBang script and turn it into a Quarkus CLI plugin? First thing first, one question, is my cursor too low? Is it visible?
I can see it.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to use the Quarkus the Quarkus CLI and the -- help option, because I want to show you the new commands around the CLI plugins introduced in Quarkus 3. We have plugin with the alias plug, which gives people access to list, add, remove, and sync, which are all commands we are going to explore in this demonstration. So I can just do a Quarkus plug add hello and specify optionally a description for my plugin, hello world with an ASCII art twist, for example. And I can enable it as a Quarkus CLI. As a Quarkus CLI plugin, sorry about that. Next time I run help for Quarkus, I do see that the hello command is now enabled in my CLI. And I can run Quarkus hello from plugins and get the exact same experience.
And this is where, like, I'll just point out, because people seem to miss this, that this was a plugin that was locally on disk, right? Like this, so you can have this script.
So that it's perfectly clear. It's this file which lives in my current directory.
Yeah. And
so
so
it is possible when you have a project to have, let's say, a directory within your project where you have locally all the available JBang scripts that you're going to use. Note that along with Hello Java, I also have in that directory the present.java, and I can use that too as a Quarkus plugin if I want. So for example, we go present.java. We should now have the present. I skipped the description for the present, so it's blank at the moment. And I could also use this script in order to deliver my presentation, right? In fact, it would make more sense to do it this way because the script creates a Quarkus themed presentation. So yeah, I guess. In both cases, we see that under the project folder, we get a new directory called .quarkus, which contains the Quarkus CLI catalog.json, which stores all the needed information for the Quarkus CLI to find the requested plugins.
Yeah. And that's just, I'm mentioning it because people don't think about Java as a language to use for scripting. And this is just kind of a thing we can do here. Like,
Okay, so the first, let's say, source of plugins are local Java files that I can have in my project. I also mentioned that an alternative source can be JBang catalogs. So why don't I add a catalog? In fact, I will add a Max catalog in order to retrieve plugins from that. Now, if I do a Quarkus plug list and get all the installable plugins, I will see that I have, along with the scripts that I just installed, I also have JBang typed plugins originating from the Quarkus IO catalog, which is enabled by default, and also the Max Anderson catalog, which I just added. We see that in Max catalog there is a plugin called Explain, and I can directly use that in order to explain what, let's say, a source file in my project does. So I can use it to explain the Hello World application, the Hello World JBang script that I created. And by calling Quarkus explain hello.java, I get a prompt that says, hey, you don't currently have any plugin called explain, but I do see that there is one available in Max Anderson's catalog. Would you like me to install it for you? I press yes, and I'm also prompted with a second message because it's the first time that I'm accessing content from Max Anderson's catalog that says, do you trust this repository, which is the source for the JBang script that you're using? And since Max
We should just hard code it to say no if it's Max Anderson.
Well, I was about to say that Max seems trustworthy to me, so I'll go with option number 3. And now the explain script starts to run. Now, what exactly is the explain script that comes from Max catalog? I don't know, Max. Do you wanna provide some more details or? Okay, let me do that.
sorry.
Okay.
I was talking without being unmuted. That doesn't help. I just point out that the reason why we ask for permission on running is because we're talking about remote execution, and in today's security thing, we just can't run randomly stuff like random dependencies from the internet, like Maven does or Gradle. At least JBang asks you before you do something bad. So that's what that check is for. And yeah, what you just wrote is like, yeah, we use ChatGPT. The explain is I think it's like 10 lines of code that use the ChatGPT API to, hey, this file you have on disk, can you explain what it does to me? and it turns out it can do a pretty good explanation. Like now it's just a hello world, but the idea is for a Quarkus app to explain.
Yeah.
And, it's pretty good.
Yeah, in the particular case, it says that the code is a Java program that uses the JFiglet library, which is correct. And it takes a string array argument, it creates a string, and then uses the JFiglet library to create the ASCII. Now, if I use the same command to a more complex program, for example, the present.java JBang script that I created earlier, we will get an explanation that will mention things like it's an HTTP server, kind of server, which serves content and does reveal JS things and stuff like that. But in a second or two, we should get the output.
Yeah. You really need local ChatGPT. Would be good.
Definitely. To say a few things more about we've got the output. So a command line application that serves reveal JS content via HTTP, uses Pico CLI library to parse command line arguments. It provides a very good explanation, and it even goes the extra mile to explain some conventions that I added and some tricks to make this whole presentation thing even better. It's really exciting. Do you want to say anything else on explain before I move on other
I like
things?
that it's actually like saying it's simple and useful. That's a very non-machine evaluation of.
I suspect what's happening there, though. Like I suspect no matter what code you put in, it might put in a similar comment because it's learning from people explaining their own code on the internet. And very few people go to the internet and then put in their code and say, you know what, this is a terrible pile of garbage.
Well, it's
Well,
I'm fully aware this is just
I know.
all like it's basically my mind being tricked to think that it has feelings. So it's good. It's passing the Turing test. Yeah.
Okay, so for now we have in the current project the explain thing, the hello thing, and the present thing. And we see that in all three cases, we get a column in the output called scope with a value project. So it says that these are project scoped. But what does it mean? Plugins can be added either as part of the local project that I'm currently working on or globally. In this particular case, since I'm inside an existing project, every Quarkus plug command that I do take effect in the current project. But if I move out of this project and change directory and run the same command, I'll see that none of these are enabled. No plugins are installed. I should be able to override the default behavior, and I should be able to install and enable commands in the user scope too, with the use of --user. So these commands will add the explain plugin that comes from Max Catalog. Only this time it will be added in the user scope. And I expect to get a warning back because the command is already installed in the project, but now is also added in the user scope. So we are warned that whenever you are inside this particular project, the user scoped command will be, let's say, masked by the one that it is available locally. And of course, if I move to another folder and do a plug list, I should be able to see the user scoped explain. Okay. Earlier, Holly asked, so what happens and what are the actual requirements for using JBang. I would like to address the same question for the CLI plugins. So the only requirement is that you have available the Quarkus CLI binary, which is what I'm currently using, and you don't even need to use JBang. So for example, if I delete JBang, which currently lives under the JBang .jbang catalog, let me do that. JBang. And do a Quarkus plugin list, I should be prompted to install JBang itself. Oops. I'm in the wrong folder, sorry for that. I should be prompted to even install JBang itself. By pressing yes, JBang is getting installed, and then the execution of the command proceeds normally.
And again, this is the point of, like, you can do Quarkus commands without having JBang installed, but as soon as you need JBang for one of the more like source
Yes,
code ones,
yeah,
then
yes,
you get it for you. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. The particular command does use JBang because we try to list JBang related plugins. So yeah, since it needs to reach the JBang catalog, it does need to use JBang, and that's why we are prompted to do the installation. So far we've seen things like adding plugins that are available as Java files locally using remote catalogs, and we've used Max Catalog. Let me share some examples that I have created and currently live in my personal catalog. So I use the JBang catalog add command to enable my catalog that currently lives in that URL. And as soon as I do plug list and request all the installable plugins, I will get plugin recommendations from all three catalogs: Quarkus.io, Max, and me. The first JBang script that I would like to turn into a plugin is the create from GitHub. And that JBang script, what it does is that it helps me clone a project from my GitHub repository and adjust group IDs, artifact IDs, versions, and stuff like that, which is quite handy. And I created because it's often pretty, let's say, tiresome to do that, especially in multi-module projects. So by enabling the Quarkus create from GitHub, I should be able to see the from GitHub command being added this time under the Quarkus create subcommand. We already have a create command which allows us to create apps, CLIs, and extensions. And since my plugin is prefixed with create, it is added directly under the create subcommand. The subcommand can be used like this. So I specify the repository, organization and repository, and also the Maven coordinates of the resulting project. Group ID, artifact ID, which by extension will also influence the name of the folder that the project will be created. And again, I'm prompted to trust the organization URL. And since it's mine, I will also go with the option 3. And now we are informed that the Insights Hello World, it already exists. I forgot to delete that.
The mistake you made was practicing the demo. You should never, ever practice the demo.
Well, yeah, in the initial in the presentation folder, I also had a script called prepare.sh, which was meant to wipe out all project folders created in this demo, but I forgot to write it. Well, I guess I should have used JBang instead and added as a CLI plugin. So by the time I would enter the Quarkus present command, it would automatically wipe everything and the demo would be saved anyway. The project that was created is Insights Hello World. So Insights Hello World, and let me do a quick build. Perfect. Oh, by the way, these are taken from the argument that I provided, right? Group ID, artifact ID, and version. And for this example, I would like to try a different way of enabling plugins for our project. So far, we've seen ways of adding plugins through JBang catalogs. For the explain thing we saw earlier, but an alternative way of adding plugins is through the use of extensions. There are each extension has its own set of metadata, and through those metadata, it is possible an extension to define a CLI plugin that is meant to automatically get enabled for your project each time you add this extension to your project. At the moment, the only extensions that make use of this feature is the Quarkus Helm extension and the Quarkus Auth client, both available in Quarkiverse. So I will go with the former option, and I will enable the Helm extension. Usually, when you want to use the Quarkus Helm extension, you also need to use the Kubernetes extension and the container image extension to perform container image build. So why don't I add all three of them? And I should be able to see the Helm CLI being enabled in my project. I get a message that says that the catalog was last updated on that date, so I should sync. And it automatically triggers the sync command. And in the end, the sync command added the Quarkus Helm extension in my project. I'm going to build again, and because this is a prerequisite for using the Quarkus Helm CLI. And by doing something like a Quarkus Helm list, we see that this time it pulls not from a JBang catalog, but from Maven coordinates. This dependency performs the build, and the list command lists all the available Helm charts that are available in my project. And I can also use install to install the charts, to uninstall, to link, and do all those kind of things. The CLI plugin for Helm is pretty much a wrapper on the original Helm CLI, which just removes the burden of having to deal with arguments and those kind of things. It detects what is available on the project and automatically installs those. I mostly wanted to share that with you because this is a great way of enabling optional CLI commands without having to go through plug add or the stuff that we've seen earlier.
And I guess this is something that extension authors should be sort of sitting up and looking at and going,
Yes, exactly. Along with the create from my GitHub command, I also created a similar, let's say, script, which is called create from quick starts. And the idea behind that was that I often wanted to check out quick starts from Quarkus, from the Quarkus quick starts repository, but the repository is very big, and usually I only wanted a particular quick start. So I often had to avoid cloning the whole thing. I often used sparse commits just to check out the folder of choice, which is a weird looking command that I never managed to recall by heart. So, I always had to go through notes and those kind of things to recall how you do a sparse checkout. And I said, okay, this is something that I need a Quarkus CLI extension. And I can use that with a similar way. Quarkus create from quick start in order to do things like cloning the Hibernate ORM quick start locally and stuff like that. Again, I'm running into the same problem with the insights folder already being there. So I will remove it and try the command again. It takes a while, so imagine how it would look if I had to clone the whole thing. Let's move into the Insights Hibernate folder and see what it looks like. The Hibernate ORM Quick Start, ORM Panas Quick Start, is a typical web CRUD that we've created for fruits. Let me run it before I do more cool things with it. Typical web applications for adding, removing, or editing fruits. At the moment, it only contains 3 fruits, the apple, the banana, and the cherry, which is something that I would like to change. So I'm going to use another plugin that I call generate data for the fruit entity, and I'm going to request 20 entries. Again, I'm using a ChatGPT, and I'm uploading the fruit entity to ChatGPT, and ask from ChatGPT to create an insert script that will contain the test data. So this way, I hope that I manage to get some more fruits.
That is cool. I think that this is a very good use case of using ChatGPT to do things, because by providing the entity to ChatGPT, you give a very strict set of guidelines on what to generate. Other cases of generating code that I've experimented with are not so deterministic and are affected by the randomness of ChatGPT. However, I find that this particular use case seems to work every single time. And the great thing about it is that it automatically updates the import.sql file, which is used by default in order to initialize and to import data to our database. So I see that at the bottom of this file, those entries have been added, along with the initial ones that already existed as part of the quick start. Now, one thing that
you may already have spotted is that IDs 1, 2, and 3 are already installed. So let me wipe those just to avoid having a duplicate IDs entered to our database. Another thing that we might run into is that we may need to update the test now that we changed the test data. So let me address that too. Yes. Sorry, I'm trying to split the windows. Okay, there we are. Import SQL. So the first entry is the apple. So I will need to change that. Apple. The second is banana and orange. So hopefully, now that I run Quarkus dev again, the tests will work and everything will be fine. I'm not sure what exactly the issue is.
It hasn't created a table, it looks like.
What was the name of the entity? Fruit entity? I think it was something like that. Oh, it missed that. Most probably that's the issue. Let's cross fingers now. Yep, it seems that it worked. And just while I was explaining that for this use case, the output of ChatGPT is quite deterministic. Me and my big mouth. Anyway, after doing that minor correction, we can see that the CRUD is now able to serve all 20 entries that we added, which is pretty cool. And as a last CLI plugin, I would like to show you something similar which can be used to generate entities. This is something that works relatively fine. However, what you will get in the end is affected by the ChatGPT randomness. So well, it's the response is pretty reasonable, if you ask me. And I think that I covered all cases that I wanted to share with you. Before I close this presentation, I would just like to recap what we've seen. We've seen how we can use the Quarkus CLI in order to how we can extend the Quarkus CLI, either using local files that are stored in our projects, using remote JBang catalogs to retrieve JBang scripts created by others, or how we can use CLI plugins provided by Quarkus extensions. We closed the whole thing with some geeky stuff coming from my catalog that we used in order to, let's say, quickly bootstrap a new Quarkus app, either from remote repositories, Quarkus Quick Starts, and more. And finally, we played a little bit with the possibilities of ChatGPT from the Quarkus CLI. I hope that you found all this as exciting as I did.
Yeah, it's super cool. So if people want to know more, I guess there's a guide for the CLI and how to extend it.
Yes, we have a guide available, uh, and I also have some instructions on how one can use the extensions available in my catalog.
Cool.
Yeah.
And
And
where's
then,
that?
well, when I always go and find the guide if you have it. I'll comment on uh we can do all these cool things, but the in Quarkus 3 the stuff that is there is basically this mechanism that Ioannis showed multiple times, like plugin, list, add, remove, and this notion of looking up either locally or in your user global scope, which is stuff you know from a traditional other extendable CLIs, whether that's Git or kubectl or a few others. But we haven't yet done like tighter integration with Quarkus because we wanted to kind of see what kind of crazy things people come up with and ask for. So, for example, right now, when you like all the commands that Iona showed didn't technically have to be inside a Quarkus project. But one of the things that I definitely want to see us explore is have the ability for the CLI to get context from the Quarkus project and do stuff from there. But we don't really want to make that something that relies on the Maven Gradle build to always run, because then suddenly just run this command will take a lot of time. But in the end, it might be that the first version we do this in might have to be like, oh, you're fetching this information. Let me do a full resolve and get it for you. But the idea is that these plugins will come up with some conventions and some APIs over time where, to get this piece of information, we will provide some API. But we wanted to first have the mechanism and then see what comes before we start adding a ton of stuff to it. So I recommend anyone to go and try and make anything bad happen. And see if let us know hey, how do I find this? How do we get this? This is something the Quarkus CLI should be able to tell us, that kind of thing. That'll be really useful. So yeah.
Yeah, super cool. So I think we're probably just about finished, unless there's any more questions on the chat.
Yeah. I have a question for you, Holly. When will you do the Minecraft plugin that goes and kills stuff for you or something?
I've started working on the Minecraft dev service. I started working on it on a plane, so I need to finish that off. But now I'm just thinking about like what's the natural thing for the CLI for Minecraft.
But not only is the pack tooling, like you've done the Quarkus packs consume and what's the other one? Provider.
Yeah.
Some easy hookups of like generating and publishing, getting those.
Like exactly
for could be a thing to do. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. For publishing, like I just went while we were talking, I went and raised an issue for that actually. Like that, normally it's a bit disconnected the publishing process because you don't necessarily want to publish every time, so you don't want it to be in the code. But so then it's really natural that you would have Quarkus pack to publish.
Yeah, right. So and that's the thing, is like we also still kind of debating back and forth. Should something be a plugin? Should it be a Quarkus Dev UI thing, or even the Quarkus Dev UI? Quarkus Dev has this terminal commands you can run, or not terminal commands, like console commands. But generally, the things that falls into the CLI is stuff you want to do without Quarkus being running, right? Which is not a lot of things. Well, there's things, but it's not everything that you do that for. But yeah, we'll see what people come up with and see if this is something that they grab onto. And I want to say again, I made JBang, but all this works just fine using normal jars. So if you want to go the hard way and publish via Maven Central and wait for whatever, you can do that. There's no JBang still gets used behind the scenes to make that happen, but you as a user, it's just all JBang free, so to speak. In that sense.
One thing that I would like to add here is that the fact that you can just, when you have a new idea and want to try something new, the fact that JBank allows you to just open your text editor, create a single file, and try that idea using that single file without having the overhead of creating a new project and creating directories and all those kind of things, makes it really, really great for prototyping. I think that it's an excellent tool for that.
I agree.
Yeah, definitely.
No, it's like, yeah. Since I built it, I do all kind of bad things this way. So all the good. Cool. Well, we had a quiet crowd today, but yeah, try it out, and yeah, thanks, Ioannis. You gave a good overview, and thanks for integrating Quarkus in a good way. So that's awesome.
Yeah, super
You're
useful.
welcome.
Yep. See you, everybody.
See ya.